I love this Grizzlies team, but you want to try to stay away from Phoenix as long as you possibly can. So we got 12 games going on tonight. We got a ton of games this week. And as I mentioned, there's a million things to be decided. This is what we know for sure. Phoenix is going to be the number one seed in the West. And as of now, would play the winner of Pelicans and Spurs. Well, that's kind of the matchup right now, right? And then obviously those teams would have to win after that. But that's kind of how it lines up. Whereas Memphis is the 2 seed, and the Wolves and the Clips are going to have to play each other. The Clippers are locked in at 8. And so, as of now, it's the Wolves and the Clippers, but there's a slight possibility that the Wolves could jump the Nuggets and push them down, and then it would be Nuggets versus the Clippers playing against each other. And so we really don't know. We don't know who Phoenix is going to play. We don't know who Memphis is going to play. The only thing we know for sure is that the Clippers are locked in at 8. And then it gets all muddled because the Warriors need one more win to ensure that they're a top 4 seed. And they would lose a tiebreaker to Dallas if they end up tied. So that one, as long as they get one more win, they're going to ensure themselves home court advantage in the first round. But I think it kind of feels likely that Dallas is going to jump them. Just the fact that tiebreaker may really come into play because Dallas owning the tiebreaker against them is a big, big advantage for sure. And so what's wild is started off this season, Golden State, just unbelievable. Steph Curry, the MVP. And look how things have changed. Now we're to the last week of the season, and we're talking about how they need one more win just to ensure themselves getting home court advantage in the first round.
Yeah, it's something else how everything developed this year. The Lakers outside the play-in, the Warriors collapsing mid-season with all their injuries and everything. These teams still get a shot, though, ultimately. They still have a chance. The Warriors, that is, not the Lakers. But like you said, these last 3 games here, Lakers, Spurs, Pelicans. For the Warriors, Pistons, Blazers, Spurs.
I mean,
the Mavericks.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You're playing 3 teams that are like their season's on the line.
Yeah, exactly.
See, it's just the way it breaks.
Exactly.
If you looked at that, even a couple of months ago, you'd have been like, oh, well, they got an easy schedule to end it. But it just so happens because of this play-in situation, they're facing 3 teams that need those games so badly. And on the other hand, I think they desperately need to win, Kevin.
And what one other quick thing though with those games, because the Warriors face the Spurs second on Saturday, and then on Sunday you have the Mavs facing them. It's possible that Sunday game for the Spurs actually isn't a must-win. It's already locked in to the 10 spot, so that could be a rest day for the Spurs, and then that helps out the Mavs. Yeah,
well,
could be.
And they staggered all of these kind of on purpose. And I know this just because of the schedule where I am. Saturday and Sunday, those games, so the Grizzlies play Pelicans, Celtics to end it, those were TBDs. Those until just recently. Until I didn't find out until yesterday.
Yeah,
when those games are going to be.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they wanted to stagger them as to prevent, if they could, teams from looking up at the scoreboard and then figuring out what they wanted to do based upon the way things were playing out. If it was possible to prevent that. But that Dallas Golden State thing, it may be the biggest thing to monitor, Kev, simply because, as we talked about a few weeks ago, the reason that matters is because 4 feeds into 1. So you just got to get away from that. And, I love this Grizzlies team, but you want to try to stay away from Phoenix as long as you possibly can. And if you're Dallas, that is true. And if it's Golden State, it's true. So that one, oddly, that one might change the playoffs more than anything.
Who would you rather have in that second round matchup as the Grizzlies? They're the 2 seed right now. Would you rather be on a road to face the Warriors or the Mavericks?
The Warriors.
You'd rather face the Warriors at this point because
I said
the Mavericks,
I said that on the Real Ones months ago.
So you'd rather face the Warriors than the Mavericks at this point with the level Dallas is playing, with Luka averaging like 31 points, 10 rebounds,
it's
9
all
assists
matchups.
over 4 months now.
It's all matchups. Now, in fairness, Dylan Brooks didn't play, and he's obviously the guy that guards Luka. I'm not saying that would, look, Luka's torching everybody. Luka torched Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So that's not the end.
And he will torch everybody.
Yeah, but it is a big guard that you could put on him, a big perimeter guy, right? That at least is going to try to hassle. Porzingis was a real problem for Memphis, and he's not there anymore. And so while that trade has been great for them, I don't know if it's great for that matchup, because he was one of the very few people that was a real problem for Jaren Jackson, because there's just not guys that look and play like him. And it's almost like mirror images in some ways. He matches the length. He matches plays outside, comfortable playing outside, can also drive to the back. He was just a problem. He's a condor too. But here's the problem. Memphis wants to fly up and down the court. Memphis wants to turn you over. Memphis wants to get offensive rebounds. Memphis wants to do all that stuff. Those are all things they can do against Golden State. Golden State gets sloppy with the ball. Golden State is small. They only have one center on their team. And yes, they have the pedigree and everything else, but there's a lot of questions with them. Steph's having to come back from injury. They haven't had a ton of games logged together with the 3 and the ancillary parts. So it might sound crazy, but I've watched that Dallas team turn that into half-court basketball against Memphis. We run a play, you run a play. You cannot speed Luka up. You're playing at their pace. And that's not the pace you want to play at. And Golden State, they'll fly up and down with you. And by the way, Memphis knocked them out last year. It's not a good matchup for the Warriors. It's just not. Whereas that Dallas matchup has been very difficult for Memphis. I mean, there's a streak. People could go back and look where Memphis scored over 120 like every friggin' night. They played Dallas. They couldn't get to 100. It's just they play this kind of slow down, grinded out basketball that makes it more difficult on them. It's a style thing. And so Dallas is, I've said from the very beginning, I don't want to see them. I would rather that be Golden State. Not that they beat Golden State. They would certainly be the underdogs. It's just matchups, though. And I think they would tell you that, too. I think the players would tell you that. I think they have immense confidence and would not be scared of playing Golden State in the least, whereas they know Dallas gave them a huge problem. And it didn't just happen once. It happened multiple times.
We'll see what happens. I mean, we will see what happens. These races are so close. And like even the Utah-Minnesota thing at the edge of the top of the play-in. 4 games left for Utah, some tough matchups. 3 games left for Minnesota, some easier matchups. If the Wolves go 3-0 and the Jazz go 2-2, that means Minnesota would take the 6. Utah would end up in the 7.
Well, and you also have Denver Utah in there.
Then your first round opponent. We'll see. That could be a crazy collapse.
And Denver's tough one is that they lose tiebreakers to both.
Yeah. So Denver they get fallout too. Well, they can move up.
Yeah, they would lose a tiebreaker to the T-Wolves if they're tied. They would lose a tiebreaker to the Jazz if they're tied. This Jazz thing has gotten wild.
Yeah.
Because it's falling apart. Did you see that stat that was going around yesterday?
Yep. 2 passes per game.
Donovan Mitchell passing it to Rudy Gobert twice a game?
Yeah. There's some other stat I looked up this weekend that was interesting to me. Rudy Gobert, like the reason why they don't pass him the ball is because Gobert, like, he's not a threat on the post with the ball in his hands dribbling. He shoots below 50% after dribbling at least once. Since like 2017. That's one of the lowest percentages of big men. But the fact that he shoots that low percentage and also shoots as infrequently as he does, he only takes one shot per game after dribbling at least once. By comparison, his teammate who plays half the minutes and Hassan Whiteside takes 1.2. You get like Mo Bamba with 1.4. You get Jared Allen with 3.1 and Embiid up to like 12 per game after dribbling one time. It just shows how infrequently Robin Lopez shoots 3.5 times per game after dribbling at least once. Robin Lopez is shooting more. Yeah, Robin Lopez shoots more after dribbling than Rudy Gobert does. So that just goes to show the level of infrequency. He ends up being in positions where he needs to make a play off the dribble, and he wants more of that. He thinks he should get more of that. And I think despite the low numbers since 2017, this year he's at 54%, which is below average, but it's not horrific by any means. So for him, he said he worked on it before the season. When I talked to him, it looks like maybe he did a little bit. It's the sealing guys off underneath the rim. Maybe they should pass him the ball more. Mitchell throwing him the ball only twice per game, which is a stat you mentioned. Only twice per game.
Wouldn't you think at least 2 lobs?
Something. Well, considering the fact that Gobert sets more screens than anybody in the NBA. He screens 45 times per game, according to all of these stats that I've said today are Second Spectrum. 45 times per game. That's number one in the NBA. Considering how often he does that, Chris, only twice to get the ball. That's something else, isn't it?
There was a video going around yesterday from the Golden State game where
my God.
Where he seals Clay.
Yeah, underneath.
I mean, he's 1 foot
position.
1 foot from the basket.
Just fire him the ball. Luka would get him the ball. Chris Paul would get him the ball there, right?
Mitchell looked right at him too.
Yeah, but like a great point guard, doesn't Luka or CP3 get him the ball there?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's purposely. I don't know. You say that, but I mean, there was a video that went around all last year of Porzingis, rolling to the basket. 2 guys guarding Luka, and Luka just like looking at him and be like, yeah, I ain't throwing it to you.
I'll tell you what, though. Here's the thing. Gobert has...
It's not a basketball thing. It's a personality thing, Kevin.
I think it is.
You don't like the guy.
I think it is.
It is.
Actions speak loudly. Yeah, Actions speak loudly, don't they, Chris?
It's not a basketball thing. I can't stand this guy. I ain't throwing you the ball.
We are inevitably going to get a report by somebody in the coming weeks or months about some friction within that locker room.
You don't need one. You didn't see the thing last week where after they blew it to the Clippers, you have Donovan say what he says.
Exactly.
Then you have Rudy.
We don't need it.
You have Rudy. You have Rudy people calling people out. Then Quinn Snyder says, I wish Rudy would keep that stuff in the locker room. Then the reporters go back to Donovan Mitchell and they ask him, did you see Rudy's comments or what do you think? And he goes, it's childish. It's absolutely childish. I mean, I was like, oh shit. Like that is a fractured thing going on there. And I was listening to Tim McMahon, who a couple of weeks ago, when he was in Memphis, I talked to him about it and he said that he had not written about it yet. He's covered that Utah team very intensely and he knows all the characters involved. And one of the things that he talked about, he dropped the mother load on Zach Lowe's podcast last week talking about him. And he was pretty adamant. He thinks it's not for long with Donovan there. But he also brought up the Rudy thing and saying that Dallas would be very interested and the interest would be mutual with Rudy Gobert. So it's funny you bring up Luka. But I mean, he was like, this is going all the wrong way. He talked about how, they really miss Joe Ingles. You could see maybe how he could be a connector between, right? I kind of feel like
skills and personality, both of it, on and off.
Mostly personality, right?
Yeah.
Just the leadership, veteran, been there.
Game
also,
2, though. Game 2, 6'7". He was a versatile defender, good shot maker, shot creator.
And I think that just you, like somebody in the locker room that's not scared to talk. And I think if you probably pulled Donovan Mitchell aside, he'd tell you, I love Joe Ingles. And I bet if you pulled Rudy aside, he'd tell you, I love Joe Ingles. And so that kind of thing, once that is taken away, you don't really have any other guy like that there.
Yes.
And so that's gone the wrong way, and it feels like they just can't wait for them to not be playing with each other anymore.